Okay, this is now the 5-minute tarot for the 21st of November 2017, and I'd like to continue today with this idea of going backwards through the major trumps. And today we'll look at the Hanged Man and then the card before it, which I'm going to say is strength and not justice, but I'll get to that in a minute. So there's a lot you can say about any individual major trump, and so for this exercise, we're going to narrow it down. I'm going to pick one or two words for a particular idea that goes with each of the major trumps. So with the Hanged Man, I'm thinking of it, let's say it represents completion, because there are 12 months in a year, a whole year. It's a complete package, so to speak. And then you get the Zodiac, 12 signs, a whole thing. So if we think of the Hanged Man as representing completion in some way, and then we look at the picture, the fellow's hanging upside down, but his head is illuminated. And that can make us think that with the Hanged Man, it starts, whatever the Hanged Man represents, or whatever success the Hanged Man's going to have, or what experiences the Hanged Man is going to have, it's about what's going on within the mind, because the head, where the mind is located, is illuminated. So maybe what we do with the Hanged Man is, it's important to understand the mental image that the person has to do with the question that they're asking about, or the possible solution, let's say. Or maybe it represents understanding. The light in the picture is in or on the mind. So maybe, and if we put together the idea of a mental image and the idea of completion, perhaps with the Hanged Man, what's important is that if the card represents what's going on in the future, it's important to see that the outcome that you want has already been done. Right, it's right, because it's completion and a mental image. So maybe what we do with the Hanged Man is, it's important to figure out or to understand that whatever it is that we want is already complete in some way, even if the outer situation isn't like that. It's not like that yet, but there's a creative power within the mind, and we can imagine the worst, and the worst will happen, but we can also understand that the best can happen as well. Okay, so if we take the idea of the Hanged Man as representing completion, how do we complete things? And we may want to know that. So in the idea of going backwards and so on. So we go back to card number 11, and here we have a kind of problem, because in traditional decks and older decks, the 8th major trump was justice and the 11th was strength. But A.E. Waite, who designed the deck, switched them around to fit in with paths on the tree of life. But I think I'd like to look at, I'd like to consider strength as 11 rather as strength. Because if you think of it, 11 is the first number after 10. And so 10 somehow is the decimal system, and it's tens, multiples of 10. So 10 is like a complete unit. So 11 is one step beyond 10. So it's a bit like a new start in its own way. Maybe a new start based on experience this time, because you've had 1 through to 10 before you get to 11. So is justice 11 or is it 8? And somehow justice, because it's the law, it seems conservative and time-bound, because of how they figure out what the law is. They always refer back to what has been. It's all based, I don't know about all, but a lot of it is based on precedent or precedent. So you figure out, because this happened 100 years ago, or this was the decision 100 years ago, we're going to repeat it or bring it up to date now. But somehow justice and what it represents is conservative. It's attached to the past. And it's more about solidifying the current situation, and it's slow and it's traditional, or it follows traditional. And it isn't really about new stuff or what is new or making a fresh start, I think. So I want to say that, let's say we go with, we want to understand how do we complete things. We're going to go back one step to 11, and we're going to say it's strength, the strength card. So because the hangman is upside down and the head is illuminated, maybe you complete things by seeing them from a new angle. I was trying to think about what that could be, and I was imagining, let's say somebody gets divorced, and then they get married again, right? So there's been they had experiences in the first marriage, and now they've got the second marriage. But with the new marriage, it's probably not. You can't just act the old way or the way that you used to, or the way that you got used to acting, because it's a new person and a new relationship, and you're a new person as well because you've been married but you've been divorced and now you're beginning again. So in some ways it's a fresh start, and I think probably it's going to take time to adjust to the new marriage partner and the new circumstances, or the circumstances of the new marriage. So let's say, how do you make a new beginning? How do you develop and complete? Because we're looking at the hanged man, and I'm saying you do it, let's say we do it through strength. So we look at the picture in the strength card, and you've got the woman closing the lion's mouth and controlling the lion, and the lion is a wild animal. You don't probably want to get too close to lions in their natural habitat. Okay, so how do you adjust to a new situation? And you do it through strength. So maybe maybe the key for completion is to, first of all, you relax. Because how did the woman get close to the lion? She probably approached slowly, and she calmed the lion down. She took control of the situation, not through rushing, and there were no sudden moves that could startle the lion. So she approaches the lion with quiet confidence. And she's going to approach slowly and check out what's going on with the lion. Is it reacting? Is it calming down? If it's calming down, then she can get a bit closer. If it's becoming a little bit agitated, maybe she'll stop. Right? So how do you complete things? I think if we look at the strength card, we can see that you complete things, or you by relaxing and approaching it slowly, and knowing that you might need to stop, but you're certainly not going to rush into anything. And this is so you can kind of get the hang of it. And I found, I had in mind like a few seconds ago, the idea of getting the hang of it, and we've got the hanged man. And maybe that's important for the hanged man. Take time to get the hang of the situation, to check out what's going on, and make sure that you act appropriately. So if we step back now once, how do we become strong? If we take the strength card as representing becoming strong or being strong. And again, we go back one step, and the before 11 is 10, which is the Wheel of Fortune. So I'm going to do this channel on the Sonnets of Shakespeare, and it's partly so if you follow along, you're going to find that you have more to say about tarot cards, and you've got more to say in and with a reading. Because what you with the sonnets, you may find, and I'll probably repeat this in the introduction to the channel, but you'll find that maybe you read the sonnet and only one word makes sense, or it's an interest, you're attracted to a particular word or particular phrase, and so you live with that sentence or phrase or a couple of words for a while. You sort of hold it in your mind and let understanding blossom or develop. And I think that's what you do with the tarot as well. So that there's, in sonnet number 1, there's a little bit where it says, "Thou thy foe." So it's like saying, "Thou art thine own foe," but it's only 3 words: "Thou thy foe," and it's so. I really like that we are our own worst enemy. We are our own foe. We are our own enemy. So we've got "Thou thy foe." The reason I'm mentioning this is because at the end, the sonnet reads, "Pity the world." So I've had that in my mind for a few days now, trying to see what will happen, or what I'll understand by it or from it. And so I'm thinking with major trumps, what you do is you come up with a word or something to do. Maybe you've got the image of the woman closing the lion's mouth for a while. and you think about what that might mean or what it suggests, or do something with it, and you're going to come up with understanding. So if we take the idea of the Wheel of Fortune, we want to know how to become strong, and that's the question. And we're saying that the answer is in some way contained in the wheel. So you think about a wheel, it goes round and round. So maybe it means that with the Wheel of Fortune, sometimes you're strong and sometimes you're not. And that can be how you develop strength or what strength is. Right? So you hold a picture or an idea in mind and see how it develops. And then you come up with an answer, and then you look at the answer and think, is that really good, or is that correct, or is it not quite right? So when I thought of the wheel goes round and round, so maybe it's telling us that sometimes we're strong and sometimes we're not. But I don't think that's quite right. But then I thought, okay, what instead, or what else? And I thought maybe strength is knowing when to act and when to hold back. That if you become strong when you recognize now is not the time to move forward, or now is not the time to hold back. So when strength can be that you know what part of the cycle you're in, or what part of the process you're at or in, and you act appropriately. So you're going to know, if you try this approach of having one or two words for a major trump, and you ponder on it and keep it in mind for a little bit of time, and come up with an idea, and then examine the idea and maybe reject the idea. Because the thing is, you're going to know if you come up with an idea or a thought or an answer, you're going to know when it's a good answer and when you're making it up and stretching or bending it because you want, and you're impatient and you want an answer. You're going to know when the ideas that you come up with make sense or are useful. And I think so from today, I think the idea that strength to some extent is you're strong when you can, or when you do recognize the part of the cycle that you're in. So if the situation is new, you can do all sorts of things that haven't been done before. But when the situation is stuck, you have to behave differently. And maybe if the situation is stuck, maybe the first thing you need to do is deal with the reasons that it got stuck in the first place, instead of trying to break through and smash the delay or the stuckness, we could say, of the situation. So by knowing what stage of the process you're at, you can choose a suitable or correct or appropriate way of behaving or way of dealing with it. And that means you're strong and gives you control of the situation, as opposed to being weak, where the situation controls you. Okay, that was it for today. Thank you very much. And I'll talk to you next time, which probably will be in a day or so. Thanks a lot. Okay, bye-bye.